I had to adapt. I had no other choice because I wanted to live. There's a legacy that I want to leave on this earth.
Hello, I'm LaVarn Burton.
I'm Tamara Ruggiero.
And I'm Mike Spigler.
Welcome to Season 2 of the American Kidney Fund's podcast, The Kidney Collective, which gives an intimate voice to the many facets of living with kidney disease.
Our theme for this season is Rare Voices, Relatable Stories.
Over the next few months, we'll be talking about rare kidney diseases and explore the shared experiences that connect the entire kidney community.
Join us for these candid conversations that offer both information and inspiration.
Welcome, everyone. We're really looking forward to our conversation today with Malkia White. Malkia is one of our AKF ambassadors and a member of our Rare Kidney Disease Action Network. She's here today to talk with us about her lifetime journey living with kidney disease, searching for a transplant, and in particular, having IgA nephropathy. IgA nephropathy causes your immune system to produce antibodies in your kidneys, causing harmful inflammation and damaging the kidneys in the process. And over time, this damage can lead to kidney disease or kidney failure. Welcome to the Kidney Collective, Malkia.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
Malkia, you were so very young when you were first diagnosed with IgA nephropathy. And, having two kids, myself, and being a child that had a lot of health problems when I was little, even taking cough syrup is something that seems very daunting when you're 6, right? So, how were you, tell us a little bit about how you were diagnosed and what that was like and, what symptoms you were having and more so what were you feeling if you remember at 6 being told you have this disease that was probably almost impossible to pronounce at the time?
Right. When I was diagnosed, my pediatrician noticed through a routine urine test that blood and protein was there, and she referred me to St. Louis Children's Hospital. The renal clinic physician said, "You have Berger's disease, and we don't know much about it." That's the conversation I remember. I'm sure he said other things, and my parents were there to listen. And I didn't have any pain, no, nothing. My mother was concerned that maybe I bumped into something or may have been violated, but there are no symptoms that I experienced whatsoever.
Do you remember kind of what you were thinking, like when that happened? Were you able to take in kind of what it meant in the long term, for you?
I didn't know what it meant in the long term, and because it was the early '80s, um, we didn't have access to an internet. They were just encyclopedia sets and landline phones, and it never really occurred to my parents. I can't say me to investigate medical journals to learn more about Berger's disease. I just remember trusting the doctor when he said, "This is what you have, and we'll take care of you." And the hospital is world renowned, so I was trusting.
Yeah, it was such a different time back then. We didn't have we didn't have the internet, obviously. We had, like you said, encyclopedias to find information, and you trusted in your doctor to give you the information you needed and to take care of you. And it sounds like, from if I'm understanding your story correctly, it sounds like you had good medical care throughout your childhood and your young adulthood. Is that is that correct?
I had excellent care from childhood up until college. Those 4 years in college, we'll just say the Lord kept me. But
Yeah.
excellent care, excellent healthcare providers. The one negative aspect of this journey was that no healthcare provider, after I left the renal clinic at St. Louis Children's Hospital, no one said this might lead to dialysis and your need for a kidney transplant. So as I matured, I I kept calling my disease Berger's disease, not knowing that it was now being called IgA nephropathy.
And now there's so much work being done with IgA nephropathy now, and advancements. Fast forward just a little bit. I mean, I guess, when at the time when you were told that you need dialysis or a transplant, did you even know kind of what those things entailed? Did you have kidney disease in your family, or were you around it at all?
I am the rare relative. There was nobody in my family that had kidney disease. I was not aware of dialysis. I didn't even know there were 2 options, hemo and peritoneal. All I knew is when the doctor said renal failure, that equated to death. That's all I knew. And within seconds, I said, "Well, I wanna live. What is it that I have to do next?" So I had no clue what was going to happen.
And this happened, so when we were talking a little bit before the show, you mentioned that you had gone to your doctor because you had the flu, I think, right? And so you were diagnosed very unexpectedly with kidney failure.
Yes, I ended up getting the flu, like you said, and the doctor gave me antibiotics and took some labs, and then I end up getting a voicemail message from her to come into the office. So that's always alarming. Went into the office and she said, "You should be on dialysis right now. Your kidney function is 12%." So I was definitely in shock, um, probably a bit traumatized. Um, and I just kicked it in high gear to find a nephrologist to treat me and figure out what I need to do next to live.
Yeah, and I really wish that your case was rare, but that happens to so many people is they go to the doctor and, in your case, you actually had the flu, but a lot of people have, like, these flu-like symptoms, where they're nauseous and cramping and feeling those things, and they go to the emergency department and they're told, they have kidney failure. So, how did you adapt to that? How did you kind of, mentally make that switch to thinking about, like, "Well, what do I do next? I mean, how is this going to take up time from, my job and everything else?" How did you adapt to all of that?
I just had a strong will to live. I knew that I was not ready to die. I thought there were many milestones that I had yet to achieve. I never grieved the loss of my kidney health. I was so busy researching chronic kidney disease, transplantation, dialysis treatments, the importance of organ donation. I had to adapt. I had no other choice because I wanted to live. There's a legacy that I want to leave on this earth, and I I did what I had to do. Fortunately, I had understanding employers. I let them know what was going on with my health, and they were very understanding. But I had the strength to work full time, 8 hours plus, Monday through Friday, and go to dialysis sessions 3 nights a week for 6 hours from 9 p.m. till about 3. So, it was just this inner will to live.
Yeah. And if anyone's listening and has not been to a dialysis center before, it's not the kind of place where you're taking a nice long nap between that 9 PM to 3 AM time frame with machines beeping and going off. So, congratulations for you for enduring through that and moving forward and working full time. I really loved I was reading your blog that you did for us, before we were having the interview today, and I loved it was love's maybe not the right word, but it was very poignant what you said about being sick, but really kind of, externally being the picture of health, so it's hard to convey kind of what you're going through. Can you talk a little bit about, what that was like and how to try to explain to people, like, "I'm really sick and you're seeing me kind of persevere."
Mhm. Well, I was not keeping my disease a secret, but that topic of conversation just doesn't come up normally. Um, when I did learn that I was going to be on dialysis and needed to have a transplant, first I informed my family and friends, who I refer to as my village, and I wanted to do it in person. We had a gathering Christmas time, and about 30 or so people came over to the house, and there was a moment that I said, "Y'all, I have a kidney disease. I've had it since I was young. This is what is happening, and I need a donor." It was important for me to let my village know in person rather than on social media because what was happening in my life was this is either I survive this or I die. This is serious. I can't keep this a secret. And because you're so dear to me, I want you to know personally that I need help. I need to survive, and I would love for you to consider being my donor. But if you can't, please share this information with someone else that you know.
I think you, in addition to sharing it with your circle of people, you went broader too, right? You took your plea for a kidney to social media, outside of people you knew. Can you talk about that? How'd you go about that, and what was that like?
I founded a hashtag that girl needs a kidney on Facebook. I can't remember exactly how I came up with the name, but I will say that a favorite song of mine by Stevie Wonder is That Girl, and sometimes I refer to myself as that girl, and we know that I needed a kidney, so That Girl Needs a Kidney just made sense. I launched it, during, March of 2018, so it was aligned with, Kidney Awareness Month. I've been attending a support group at, MedStar Georgetown Transplant Institute, and they were in-person meetings. This is pre-COVID, and many of the members, patients, uh, told me, "Go on social media, get bumper stickers, get T-shirts." They were encouraging me to with helpful hints on how to get this preemptive transplant. Social media, was popular. I'm a bit tech savvy, but I have more tech savvy friends that I reached out to and said, "This is what I want to do. Can you help me?" And so that's how I ended up informing the World Wide Web about my need for a kidney. I was actually, looking for a living donor. I ended up not finding a living donor, but a handful of people did start the process, did not finish due to medical or personal reasons. But the internet has such a far reach. And again, I wanted to live. So I was willing to do anything positive to make people aware of my health condition.
Yeah. And so you were in the middle of this search for a living donor, and then I assume you got the call that a kidney was available from a deceased donor. Is that what happened? And talk to us about what that was like when you got that phone call.
When I got the call, it was about 4 a.m. It's a couple of days after Thanksgiving. I was eating Thanksgiving leftovers at around 2 o'clock in the morning and watching Netflix. So I think I ended up going to sleep in between 2:30 3 a.m., and my phone rang. And anybody that knows me knows that I have these phone rules. So don't call me after 10 p.m., and most certainly don't call me at 4.
No, no.
So so the phone rings, and I said, "I don't know who this is, but I'm going to sleep. I've only been asleep for an hour. I'm still tired. I'm not answering this." A few minutes later, the phone rings again. And I had this same conversation. I'm not answering this. And as soon as the phone stopped ringing, I said, you know what? That could be the transplant center. And I said, well, they'll call my mom. So that's what they did. They called my mom and my dad, and my parents came downstairs to my bedroom and said, "This is this is your transplant coordinator. Talk to her now." So she says to me, "We have a kidney for you. Can you be here at 5:30?" And I was like, "I can be there at 5." So I already had my to go bag packed. I'd had that prepared for what 3+ years. And the hospital is less than 40 minutes from the house, and at 4 a.m. there's no traffic. So we were there uh, before 5:30, and I was in surgery, I believe, by 10 a.m.
That must have been quite a change in perspective from like a middle of the night kind of phone call rage of who's calling me to getting the call you've been waiting for 3 years.
Right.
When you woke up from surgery, was the transplant successful immediately? Was the kidney immediately making urine, or what was that like when you woke up?
Actually, I was transplanted twice. That's what the doctors told me. They put the kidney in, had to take the kidney out because a vascular surgeon had to repair something. After that repair, they put the transplanted kidney in, and everything seemed to be fine. The next morning, of course, they tried to get you to walk, and that was horrible. There was this tiny little nurse trying to help me out of bed and onto a scale. All was good. However, I ended up being discharged after a 10-day stay. I did get a blood clot while I was there at the hospital, and that had to be removed. There was one day that I was totally nauseous with, staples there at your abdomen. The pain is just indescribable. I wouldn't want anybody to experience that. So 10 days was longer than what the literature said when I was researching about surgery. And my road to recovery was eventful. I actually had to come back to the hospital right before the new year. I had a leakage from the stent, and that had to be repaired. And I had a nephrostomy tube attached to me for another 7 months. And in July of 2022, I was actually able to pee on my own. It was trying. The journey never seems to end. I've had other procedures since transplant. I will report that today my transplanted kidney function is great, and I am feeling wonderful.
Malkia, there's probably some people listening to this podcast right now that have just been diagnosed, or their loved one's just been diagnosed with IgA nephropathy, and AKF has a lot of information on its website. We have a campaign, a step ahead of IgA nephropathy, and you can go to that page and find out links to some of our partners, like the IgA Nephropathy Foundation. They have a registry, and but for someone that is new to this diagnosis, and for everything that you've been through, what have you learned about IgA nephropathy that you wish that you had known earlier?
I wish I'd known that the disease could recur. It was only through my research and wanting to learn more about the disease that I learned that the disease could come back, resurface. So that was quite a surprise.
Have you met other people with IgA nephropathy?
I have met others with IgA nephropathy. The IgA Nephropathy Foundation, I am an ambassador for that organization. So I have a whole new set of family members. um, but I didn't meet anyone with IgA nephropathy until actually an employee of that foundation found me on Instagram and she DM'd me. And that's how I became connected with the foundation. So up and I wasn't, I was in my 40s when I actually met another patient with the disease.
What was it like to, because I think that's such a common experience when you're living with a rare disease like IgA nephropathy, you're not necessarily connecting with other people who have the same condition. What was it like to finally connect with someone who had that shared experience?
It was amazing, actually. Finding the foundation was a relief, really, because I could talk to others who knew what this struggle was, what the waiting and the some of the symptoms that I did experience was fatigue and leg cramps, night sweats. It was just a good feeling to connect with a whole new population where it was safe to discuss what was going on with our bodies, discussing our journeys. And I learned, that about some of the complications of the disease that I never experienced. It was just a nice feeling to connect with others that, I could talk to, love on, hug on, and be encouraged by them and their stories.
Well, just as you have benefited from I think getting that reciprocation from them, someone that's lived it, you are doing so much to help others as well. I mean, you've participated in our kidney action summits, which is when we go to Capitol Hill and talk to legislators about policies and bills that would benefit the kidney community. You've participated in our Rare Kidney Disease Action Network, so that's a group of ambassadors that have a rare kidney disease. Participated in our Unknown Causes of Kidney Disease Summit because that's kind of all tied together as important things that we're doing. Why do you think it's important to do that? Why do you think it's important to speak up on behalf of the rare disease community?
It's so very important to speak up for the rare disease community because our voices need to be heard. Those who are not aware of these kind of advocacy opportunities, I I get to be the voice for them. Those who are not physically able to travel to Capitol Hill and share their stories. It's just an opportunity to let policymakers know that this disease has no cure. Patients are in a life and death situation, and it's a story of survival. I, share statistics with the policymakers or their staff members, um, but it's just an opportunity to let folks know that this illness has no face or look to it. You could look like the picture of health, but you have no idea that the patient might be struggling with low blood pressure, high blood pressure, dizziness, leg cramps, a variety of symptoms, including anxiety and depression. And I also make it a point to ask the people that I'm speaking with, are you a registered donor? Because you have an opportunity to encourage folks and to save someone's life.
It's great that you never miss an opportunity to ask people that question because, like you said, it's a life saving opportunity for people. In the last couple of years, there's been a lot of progress made regarding development of therapies for IgA nephropathy. How closely have you been following the research, and can you speak a little bit about your hopes for the future in terms of treatments for IgA nephropathy?
Although I did receive a transplant, I am still active, learning everything I can about kidney disease and especially IgAN. So, yes, I'm keeping up with the treatments that have been approved for IgAN patients. I just wish, that was available in the 80s, but I'm so very glad that they they are available now. What I hope for is a cure. That would be wonderful to have a cure for this disease. Again, although I was encouraged, very encouraged along my journey and still encouraged, this is a difficult disease to live with. But I've had the help of again, my village and medical providers, especially a therapist. I look forward to great things in the future for IgAN patients.
So, and I think for those, we can put this in the show notes too. If anyone's looking for what new innovations are coming out, we have a great innovations page on our website. So as new therapies come out for IgA nephropathy or otherwise, you'll be the first to hear it on that website. So we'll add that to the show notes as well. Malkia, as we are about to wrap here, someone has found this podcast and they're listening, and what's the one kind of takeaway that you wish people understood about kidney diseases or rare kidney diseases or IgA nephropathy?
It is a silent disease. And again, I will emphasize there's no look to rare kidney disease, chronic kidney disease, or IgA nephropathy. This is my own theory, but I believe that the public thinks you should look poorly or sickly, like you're on the brink of death when you have this disease. And that's not the case. I look like the picture of health, but my kidney function was 8% and continued to decrease. Don't look for the illness. Just ask how the person is doing, how they're dealing with the illness, how they're processing. Kind words and encouragement and hopeful statements go a long way on this journey.
Well, Malkia, we can't thank you enough for being here with us on the Kidney Collective. It's been a great conversation, and I know that everybody who's watching and listening is really going to benefit from hearing your words of wisdom and learning about your story. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'd like to thank Vertex Pharmaceuticals, sponsor of AKF's A Step Ahead of IgAN campaign, for supporting this episode. To explore the topics we discussed in this episode, go to the episode show notes on your podcast listening platform or go to kidneyfund.org/podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe or follow the Kidney Collective wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a like or review to help us reach more members of the kidney community.
You can also follow AKF on all major social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X, or whatever comes next. Join us next time. Remember that even in the toughest moments, there's hope ahead, and the Kidney Collective and AKF are here for you now.